I am joined today by a very special guest, a jiu-jitsu practitioner, a professional doorman, and an author of the book, Mastering the Metal, the story of James Watson and Eddie Bravo. We have Zack Moore with us here today. Zack, how are you, buddy?
Man, it was good to see you put on the professional host right there, dude.
We don't break the fourth wall, man. We don't, it's like, I'm always happy like this. What are you talking about? Do you believe in flat earth?
I don't know what we're on.
You don't know?
Yeah, I don't know what we're on, dude. Huh. Genesis 1:8 says that we're in a firmament, right? So we're under a firmament. So I don't know. I'm not sure, but I don't think we went to the moon, dude.
You don't think we went to the moon?
No.
You think McGregor's done? You think he's going to fight again or what?
Why would he fight? It just kind of feels like that at this point. You know, I understand the injury that he had, and I understand the toe and that wanting to go in there fresh and everything like that, but it seems like there's a lot going on.
I've never had any sort of money at that level, so I don't know exactly how pure that cocaine is. So I mean, I was doing cocaine absolute dog shit for years, and it took me rock bottom before I was like, yeah, I think I'm good here. So to me, like the concept of who Jesus was without any divine intervention is maybe even more impressive.
Tell me more.
We had a ton of diversity in comedy.
There's always
it was the best of the best. There's nobody that ever watched Greer Barnes perform in New York City and been like, wow, he's great, but I sure wish a white guy was up there. Like, it's just never happened. Not once.
Comedy's naturally diverse because if you've got like 10 different comics, you want to hear 10 different perspectives.
Yeah, well, at least 9 of them before the woman comes up.
Everyone's a victim!
Welcome back, goons and gals. It's your boy Gerard Michaels here, the People's Champ. Another episode of Gerard vs. Evil on the road here in Austin, Texas. What's up with you, man? What's going on?
You thought you'd see me on Sunday night? Thought I was always working. I got another off day today.
Oh, nice.
So I'm basically on vacation. Like you said, I might be fired.
For the people that don't know, Zack, why don't you tell them you worked?
Yeah, I work security at the Comedy Mothership. I've been there just over a year. It's me, a bunch of my MMA and jiu-jitsu teammates from 10th Planet Austin. Yeah. We got a homie from B Team, one guy from B Team, but like out of 18 people, everyone's training together, fighting together, and then working at night.
It's very clear and very obvious for anybody that has been in the mothership, the only way to get a gig working the door at the mothership is to have not one but 2 cauliflower ears.
Yeah. Everyone there, I'm like... I remind people all the time that I'm nowhere near the best fighter there. And they always get me confused with another guy, my security lead there, Sean. He's 4-0, amateur. He won his first 3 fights in about 3 minutes total. His last fight was a really good one, but he's 21 years old and he's on the way up. And
I just met Sean the other night.
Yeah,
cool dude, man.
Kind of looks like me to a lot of people.
Yeah, he looks like you if you stretched you out a little bit longer. You know?
Yeah, and I got a little bit wider up here, dude.
So talk about 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, man. How'd you get into it? And I'm interested that Sean. So Sean's a 10th Planet guy.
Yeah.
Now 10th Planet guys, depending on the jiu-jitsu world. A lot of people say that it doesn't really translate to MMA as well as...
I thought you were going to say we were all stoners.
Well, you are. But that's most jiu-jitsu. Most jiu-jitsu, though. I mean, jiu-jitsu is weird. It's like getting your ass kicked by a guy that's was on his way to go surfing. I was like, how did this happen, man? This is,
and he reeks, too.
Yeah, exactly.
He reeks while he's choking you or something.
Yeah, he's always trying to pull you down to the ground. And it's like, no, what's going on here? Leave my ankle alone.
So the thing is, for Sean was... Sean's a great example. And it's so great to have these guys on that security team with me because it puts a spotlight on them too. Like a lot of people have gotten to know Sean through the Comedy Mothership to Instagram. One time he comes in, or Gary Clark comes in and recognizes Sean, and Sean's like not somebody who recognizes a lot of people. So that was like kind of a funny moment for me, where it was like this guy's Austin, Texas, right here. One of the best guitar players. I think that might have been me. No, that's not me.
No, hold on. Sorry, brother.
One of the best guitar players here in Austin, a local legend, Gary Clark. And, people are starting to get to know some of our fighters who are on the come up, and it feels like we're a hometown team that's growing. And like you said, a lot of people have had things to say about 10th Planet in the past, but one of the things about Eddie is Eddie's always been at the forefront of things. And I was actually just talking to somebody about this today, is that I'm pretty sure that Joe Rogan named 10th Planet, the legend is, and I'm pretty sure I saw this on video, I'm 99% sure, is that Eddie wanted to call it Nibiru, because Nibiru is Planet X, and every X number, whatever amount of years, it runs into Earth, and we have like a rebirth or something. So Eddie wants to call it Nibiru. Joe says you should call it 10th Planet. It's a great name. Nibiru would have been confusing for a lot of people. It sounds like a sushi place. But Eddie, his system is built on MMA. It's built on no gi. A lot of people were tied to the gi, and the reason that people were tied to the gi is there's a level of laziness to it, where it's like if there's an explosive college wrestler that comes in and can dance all over you as the black belt instructor, that would look really bad. But if you can grab onto someone's gi from the collar or from the wrists, now you can suddenly slow the game down and play exactly what you want to play with something that they don't understand. Like the last time I put a gi on versus someone who was training gi, I was like, he's grabbing my collar, he's grabbing my wrist. I forget how to break these like he knows how. So it's
You're getting Ezekiel choked out of nowhere.
Yeah. Like I'm not wearing this. We're not wearing, like, you're not gonna. It's a different game. And Eddie was there at the beginning of the UFC with Joe and watching things, discussing things, having those late night after the fights, after the comedy shows, conversations that you might have at dinner about what's the best way to do things with other people who are passionate about it. And the overhooks, the underhooks, the grips, all of that is really a basis out of the 10th Planet game, which is also out of Jean-Jacques Machado's game. Jean-Jacques has a hand that has a thumb and a little bit of a pinky on it because he had umbilical cord syndrome. So the umbilical cord wrapped around his hand and his fingers didn't grow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he's like he still beats everyone up. He's 55 years old. And when he was doing no gi or gi, it didn't really matter because he was so reliant on overhooks and underhooks. So everything of that 10th Planet game is experimented, tested, and Eddie's a conspiracy theorist in people's mind, but he's always been at the forefront of things, and he's always been ahead of the game, and he's always ended up being right.
Yeah. I think maybe this is unfair, but I think some of the 10th Planet stuff is, the 50-50 pulling guard, ankle locks, and, rubber guards and things like that people don't think would translate into an actual real fight, A lot
of that leg lock stuff is the stuff that's like for a while, people call it like the meta in jiu-jitsu. There's always like a thing that that's winning people championships and things like that.
Gordon Ryan donkey guard and stuff.
There's a guy we know named Abe who trains at New Wave, Abraham Lamontagne, and he does like a reverse donkey guard, and he'll like ankle lock people, he'll toe hold people. So there's certain things in jiu-jitsu that are jiu-jitsu centric. As I progress in being in the pursuit, so a guy who's a big inspiration for me is a guy named Eric Niksic. Eric Niksic is the 3-time, I believe now, MMA Coach of the Year. He's Francis Ngannou's coach, Sean Strickland's coach. And one time I had the privilege of like going up the elevator, and Joe and Poetan are out there talking about how he dealt with Israel's leg kicks. And then Niksic comes out of the elevator, and I'm just a fly on the wall watching Eric.
It was black magic, right? First of all, it was. They agreed it was black magic.
The way that Poetan moves in, and he's next time you watch him fight, watch the way he glides in. I kind of noticed that last time. He's just so smooth on his feet, and he's always in that athletic stance, ready to do exactly what he wants to do. And I just was a fly on the wall watching Niksic and Cruz. Cruz is Poetan's coach, and watching all these guys talk about how they beat Israel Adesanya. And Niksic's he's like a former football player. He's never had a fight. I don't believe so. He came up through Extreme Couture and just a student of the game. And, from a jiu-jitsu standpoint, just like Eddie, myself and the people that I'm around are really, and in Austin too, being from somewhere else, right? You're in Florida, and being in Austin, the B team, New Wave, 10th Planet, everyone's super well-rounded now. So it's not just about like 50-50. Like I don't play 50-50 because for me it's not 50-50 because I'm not that good there. It's 60-40 for them a lot of the times if we're there. Yeah. Right. So yeah, like pulling guard is applicable if you do it intentionally, and if you pull right into half guard or quarter guard, which I have a really good half guard game because I listened to Eddie and I wrote a book with him and I listened to what he was talking about, and I watched him compete a lot while I was doing that. I watched that second match versus Hoyler, which is really his masterpiece, and he played a lot of like half guard. He played lockdown, and lockdowns when you get that one leg in between the two legs, and my game is so predicated on lockdowns and I sneak around the back.
Just
And
grapevine and mother suckers.
yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
what do you think makes the Russian? Well, really, it's the OVs, right? Anybody that's one of those Dagestanis. What is their wrestling technique that seems to be unstoppable in MMA?
There's something that I really like called the Dagestani handcuff. I use it a lot. And there's just this smashing style that you saw Khabib use up against the cage quite a bit. And the way that he'll, like you said, kind of grapevine the legs. He'll mount the legs and he'll squeeze them together. He'll grab that wrist, that's the elbow that's on the ground. He'll pull that towards him. And I do that all the time.
So it looks like a boa constrictor slowly eating its prey from the feet up. Yeah.
And that's what you want. That's what, like, I think about it a lot. I want to be like quicksand, you know? And we were, Dalton and I were briefly talking about like MMA and like my style, because I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. It's like, I'm just trying to figure out any way possible to
The
pull
audience
you.
doesn't know Dalton exists.
Oh, yeah.
Dalton's producing the show, guys. Hi, Dalton.
Yeah, and so I'm just trying to pull you down to the ground any way I can. Because
Do you think the fact that those guys don't really seem to care much about like winning fight of the night or knockout of the night seems to help them fight their game a little bit more? But, you know, the people here, I mean, Americans, we're trophy hunters, right? We're glory hounds. So you got guys that are constantly going for, I mean, you got wrestlers, like all American wrestlers that are just throwing haymakers in there.
Yeah.
You're like, why?
Right. Why aren't you used, like my game is I'm reaching out to grab you and pull you close, and it's going to be a boring game.
Yeah.
But that's who I am. You know, that's what I've come up doing. And for what I do, like in security now, you know, like I want to do things in a way that causes minimal damage and maximal, like, you know, like, you want people to know that you could have done worse and you chose not to, and you handled things the way that you should have.
Are you guys getting into some kerfuffles over there at the
But
mothership?
there's always the concern, right? And so your first and foremost, your job in any kind of role like this, you know, is
Well, it's Texas, so make sure they don't have a gun.
right, and that's what we do at the front.
Yeah,
we make sure it's
sure.
it's an unfair fight. if there ever was a fight, we make sure they don't have anything on them. It's unfair in our advantage, right? But whenever you're dealing with any kind of situation, just like the ability to just grab and hold somebody, I mean, that's ultimate self-defense. And what you're talking about with the Dagestanis is like the demoralization that comes from that feeling of this person's so much stronger than me and they're mauling me. It's that feeling is, I mean, a knockout, obviously you don't want brain trauma. I've had enough of it. I played football, so I was a football guy. And we talked about Mickey training with Joe DeFranco, and I was a Joe DeFranco guy. And I don't want any brain trauma, but I mean, that's one punch, you know, mauling someone for 15 or 25 minutes where you've won
Stealing their will.
Yeah, where you won all 25 minutes.
Yeah.
And in the 24th minute, you submit them, or, you know, like I think we saw a little bit of that from Islam against a guy who everybody loves and who's as good as they come, Dustin Poirier. Was he finished him with a submission in the 4th round, right? And he handled most of the fight, you know, and these guys are, by any means, whatever you come to the dance with. And I think that it's kind of been shown time and time again that the best grappler is, you want to be the best grappler.
You think McGregor's done? You think he's going to fight again or what?
Why would he fight? You know, it just kind of feels like that at this point. You know, I understand the injury that he had, and I understand the toe and that wanting to go in there fresh and everything like that. But it seems like there's a lot going on. You know, if we're finding out that, I just watched the Johnny Manziel Untold Story finally.
Yeah.
If we're seeing a lot going on, there's a lot going on. You know,
A lot going on.
And that story like really tugged at me as a former athlete yourself too.
Yeah.
Like it's what the NCAA and what the school and A&M and everyone was able to profit off of Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
And then like him to like be flying all over trying to make money.
But also he was just an immature kid too.
Yeah,
so I
he's a
mean,
kid.
like
21 years old.
Yeah, you're a kid. But
McGregor's now 36, acting in a.
Yeah, but he's a billionaire though.
Yeah, he's a wild boy though, is what I'm saying.
Well, I've heard stories. You know,
Yeah.
I actually was told by a dude 2 years ago, a dude that would know. He's like, McGregor's never going to fight again.
Yeah,
it's you know,
he's having a good time.
Well, that's the thing. And you can't be doing that shit. Although I will say, now that I've been around the MMA world and I've been around a lot of guys, it's shocking to me how many guys don't really go all in on this stuff.
It's shocking. Well, you played baseball at a high level, and I played the football the same way. It's like that's what the Manziel documentary reminded me of. Is
Yeah.
like he like made a comment at one point that he was like a frat guy. The football was his frat, and like yeah, I mean like
We were that way with baseball for sure.
yeah, part of
sure.
the fun that we had during those years was that we were having a good
Well,
time.
you're a Viking, right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
you know,
If you let it get to you. Yeah.
all things in moderation.
Yeah.
All things in moderation. But also, I've never had any sort of money at that level, so I don't know exactly how pure that cocaine is. So, I mean, I was doing cocaine absolute dog shit for years, and it took me rock bottom before I was like, yeah, I think I'm good here. So, you know, I can't imagine. You know, Bill Burr has that great bit of like with... oh, you're gonna judge Tiger Woods when like you're beating
Yeah.
off Norwegian models on your way back to your Mercury Tracer. You have no idea what it's like to be tempted at that level, you know. And it's you know that great man bit's one of the best bits, but I think America specifically, we love a comeback. I think a lot of us want to see McGregor.
We love that.
You know, I want to see him come back. I want to see him have another. You know, another moment in the sun. You know,
We want to recapture what we saw in 2015.
yeah, maybe make. I know.
9 years ago.
Is that crazy?
9 years
9
ago,
years
dude.
ago, dude. But in those 9 years, who has been that to the UFC?
No one.
No
And that's
one.
why we want to see it again.
Well, that's why if I was Dana, I would write him a blank check to be the commentator.
Yeah. that
He
could
would
fun.
be the greatest commentator of all time. And if he gets too blitzed up in Vegas and no shows, oh well, see you next month. You know, like, buddy, come here and sit down and talk for the next 3 hours. You know, I would love to see a McGregor cast the same way that there's a Manning cast. You know,
Oh, yeah.
that's what we need. I just need
He's just drinking stouts.
yeah, just put him up in the proper 12 suite.
Yeah.
and just have a live
Load
mic.
him up.
Just have a live mic going, dude. That would be must see TV. That's worth $1 billion right there, man. I mean, you know, next time you talk to Rogan, just say, hey, I got this great idea. You know, and you know, how did you get hooked up with Eddie Bravo, man? And what do you think? What do you think the world kind of misunderstands about him?
Oh, man. How did I get... well, I've known Eddie since I was a white belt. So Austin,
You still are a white belt, though.
no.
You're a white boy belt.
Yeah, no. Brown belt now. 8 years in.
No. That you can't do that. That's not right.
8 years in, dude.
You can't just Rachel Dolezal yourself. You're
Rachel Dolezal. There's a throwback, dude. She disappeared. She's probably still making
No,
money,
she's
too.
on Onlyfans, bro.
That's true.
She's on OnlyFans.
That's true. She disappeared from the
she-
from the academic world.
All she needed to do was be a singer, and they could have just named her Ariana Grande and given her
Yeah.
a Grammy. That poor thing.
Shot her lips full of filler.
That's
Shot
what-
her cheeks full of shit.
Everybody's doing it anyway. You know?
Yeah.
That's the thing about it that I find so funny. It's like being white is the worst thing ever. And here's a girl that's like, okay, I won't be white. And they're like, how dare you act black? And it's like, which way do you want her to go with it, dude? Like, you're sending mixed messages.
Man, it's a confusing world out there. I mean, and I think that's what, like, with Eddie is said, man, Eddie will say some stuff when you're not initiated that sounds kind of crazy. Like, all that earth is flat stuff sounds crazy on the outside. But then, like, you keep, like, digging deeper and digging into things, and you understand what people are talking about. And, like, NASA, you know, I just heard Candace Owens and Tristan Tate talking about how NASA is just like, this is stuff Eddie was saying 10 years ago, that it was like just a place where people dump money into. And it's like, we worship science, we worship man. And that's kind of the driving force behind NASA. And Eddie is, what do people misunderstand about him?
Sure.
Is that I think that the community that you have in jiu-jitsu, the amount of people that you talk to, there's a level of education that comes from that I don't think a lot of people understand. It's kind of an old school kind of education. Eddie's going to tell you that he never reads. Like, he's written more books than he's read. He's a YouTube philosopher. You know, he watches YouTube videos and he talks to people. And you know, I think that he's been ahead of the curve on a lot of stuff. He's been digging into a lot of stuff, and it's just the same way he is in jiu-jitsu, is that he's not afraid to follow where the information takes him. And that's kind of where the flat earth stuff kind of comes in with me, is that, like, he's clearly, like, he'll go after the biggest sacred cow there is, you know?
Sure.
And, like,
And so now, have you been converted? Do you believe in flat earth?
I don't know what we're on.
You don't know?
Yeah, I don't know what we're on, dude. Genesis 1:8 says that we're in a firmament, right? So we're under a firmament. So I don't know. I'm not sure, but I don't think we went to the moon, dude.
You don't think we went to the moon?
No.
That seems to be a very big one now. I think Rogan's off the moon too. I think Rogan's like, there's no way we went to the moon.
I think that Eddie brought him back. So Rogan went no moon, back to no. We didn't go to the moon. I think he even says it in the special.
Yeah, there's some compelling evidence that there's some funky stuff with the moon landing.
You ever just look at the stuff? That, look at how they flew there.
Yeah.
Like, look at the stuff held together with tinfoil. It looks
yeah,
like.
the idea that we lost the technology is pretty backwards, and also never think of it as a kid, but like Nixon was on a landline. Yeah. Talking to the people that were in,
I can't get through in a garage.
Yeah.
I used to live in an apartment where as I hit the third floor, I couldn't hear anybody. Right. So I think that the flat Earth stuff, the NASA stuff.
Well, then why would Russia and China go along with it? Why would our enemies go along with it?
Maybe, like, isn't it interesting that like China recently went to the moon and it was a space race with Russia, right? So we were trying to prove to each other.
There's so many people that are in that industry. So you're saying everybody in astronomy is in on the lie? Every single person that works in aeronautics, like it's sometimes to me it's like an Occam's razor thing, like one, I don't care. That's the weird thing. Like, I couldn't care less.
That's what makes it a good issue to kind of like have a fun conversation about.
It's not abortion. People really care.
Yeah.
No, I don't care, but people really care.
Yeah, but if you can get people talking about like certain issues, it makes it easier to talk about the issues that that make you and I uncomfortable. When you start to understand like a variety of different things.
I'm not uncomfortable on anything. I might have like some sort of low-level autism or Asperger's or something like that.
Sometimes I get high and I get a little uncomfortable. I'm like, I can't believe this is true.
Oh, let me start talking about the historical Jesus, man. Like, let's rock and roll. That's to me like the concept of who Jesus was without any divine intervention is maybe even more impressive.
Tell me more.
Well, if you think about it, and then I do want to get back to Eddie Bravo and these guys, but put it into the context of just imagine for a second the most blasphemous thing you can imagine, which is that Jesus existed, but he wasn't divine. There's no divine intervention, right? He's just a man.
Yeah.
All right. So this is a dude born a bastard son. Eve was 13 years old. Again, the most heretical, blasphemous thing you can say.
You mean Mary?
Mary, I'm sorry, not Eve. Forgive me.
I got you.
Thank you, because the internet would have fucking never let me live that one down. Oh boy. Mary was 13 years old. She was in occupied land. They think that some people theorize that the soldier that impregnated her was Tiberius Pantera, which dates back to like 30 years after Jesus' death. This is not some like retcon 1,000 years later. And here he is. Just imagine the bastard son of a raped mother has to live with his father and his half-brothers and siblings as this reminder of, the most traumatic experience of their life. An occupying force came into their homeland, raped his mother, right? And then this guy disappears from age 12 to 30, and he comes back a radical, and he's looking at his people now as an adult and seeing that his people, the Jews, the Palestinians, the what were they, the Nazarenes,
whatever label you want to put on them. I think it's best to, like, with a lot of this stuff, is like whatever label you want to put on them, there's good and there's evil, like, which is it,
Sure, he's looking at his people, and they're now dealing with the Romans. They're telling their people to give unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and hey, it's best to make friends. And Herod was bought off, and now, this is full-on Roman occupation. And what did he do when he went to the temple? He flipped over the exchange tables. What were they doing at the exchange tables? They were taking their local currency and exchanging it for Roman currency. And now they were taking a profit in the exchange as well. But what he saw was his people being sold out by the elites. And that the ruling class had made a deal with the occupying force. These people, which should have been his elders, fighting against these occupiers, have now made a deal with them and telling them be nice. And Jesus said, no.
He was so gangster, dude.
Gangster.
My head coach at 10th Planet, Austin, Curtis Hembroff, we've been talking a lot about that lately. Like tolerance isn't a virtue, and right before I got baptized,
Tolerance isn't a virtue.
yeah, it's like tolerance is a virtue, but we get to the point where you're supposed to continue to turn the other cheek. You're supposed to continue to turn the other cheek.
No. So I think tolerance is a virtue, but I do think our empathy has been weaponized.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
and
saying.
I think
yeah,
that
you're correct. Yeah.
they've taken the best parts of us, especially over the last 4 or 5 years,
Yes.
and they've used it as a weapon against us. And now, unfortunately, we have to be very, very selective with our empathy. We
Yeah.
have to make sure that the people that are getting our empathy are deserving of it and are not just using it to empower themselves.
That's a better way than that's what I was trying to say. Exactly. It's this. Right before I got baptized in May, and
Did you grow up Christian?
I grew up Catholic.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm from the. Are you from Long Island?
Nah, Brooklyn and then Jersey.
Brooklyn, yeah,
Old Bridge. I grew
Jersey.
up in Old Bridge.
Right. I had
Yeah.
a girlfriend from Freehold. Back
That's
in the
right.
day.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
I grew up Roman Catholic. Same
Right.
thing. I still am Roman Catholic, but it's really more of like a cultural thing. You know?
Yeah. So I grew up Catholic, and I never really got into the Bible. So it's like I've been getting into the Bible because of James. It's like that's one of the interesting things is that whatever comes next, the first chapter that I have in mind talks about the Gospel of John and talks about the period that we're living through. And you've watched people who are telling the truth, and you've watched the same story that we've seen play out since the Bible, which is the people who are telling the truth, the people that are in a very specific case. We're talking about the Austin comedy scene. We're talking about Joe Rogan. We're talking about ivermectin. We're talking about Jesus healing the blind. We're talking about Jesus being crucified for doing certain things, right? That the elites, the people in power didn't want. And very much so in a similar way, we're living through a time period where the people who are telling the truth have to live with the consequences of telling the truth in a similar manner, right? And so that's the kind of the power of the Gospel of John, and that's kind of the power of Jesus' story to me. And have read that leading up to being baptized was a really clearly done on purpose by my church, Red Rocks Austin, clearly done on purpose, and really kind of gives you a level of conviction where it's there are sometimes going to be consequences for being awake and being aware. And like I was saying about James Watson, James is Eddie's best friend and musical partner from the time Eddie was like 16 through 28. And James is a very religious guy. Around 33, 34, 35 years old. I'm not recalling right now. He had leukemia, and so his entire life was just changed drastically. And in that time period, he found Jesus, he found the Bible, and he's found a level of contentment with the things that have happened to him throughout his life and the situations that have come and what he's gone through that I struggle to find sometimes, and have it much easier.
Was James the influence that brought you to seeking to be reborn?
Yeah, for sure. Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's like he made the Bible accessible to me. What's funny is that realizing now is that this book, Eddie would tell me that James was the main. James is the story. And when you're writing a book and you're writing a book with Eddie Bravo, right? Like the publisher and yourself thinks that Eddie's the story, right? But what I've learned through the process of learning from James, James, the Gospel of James starts off with a verse about suffering, right? Like, and that suffering is, I wish I could recall it right now. It's James 1:2, right? And it's about suffering and how it provides growth and it's James is the living image of that. So,
And that's Jesus' brother, James, right?
Dude, I'm pretty new in the Bible, so my thing's all marked up and everything like that. So sometimes you'll say something to me and I'm not totally sure at this point. It's just
Did your girl come along with you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like I've been going to church for 2 years. It started just as I finished the book. Really, I was just finally like, all right, now's the time. Started going and go every week or watch every week if I can't be there. And, it's a great community, and it's kept me on through a lot of different things that I didn't think I'd have to overcome over the last 2 years. It's kind of helped me out,
When you came out to Austin, you came out specifically to train, or what made you come out here?
No, my sister went to UT. So my sister is a McCombs Business School grad.
Wow.
And so, yeah, really smart. She works for a gas company, and you know, she's on a rocket ship to the top, dude. She's a very hardworking person, you know, and so she came to McCombs. My family's here now too. My dad's north of the city, my mom's south of the city. I'm here. You know, it's
enjoying the zero state income tax.
Thank God.
Coming
dude.
out of Jersey is just like, what? You don't pay what now?
Yeah.
How are their roads? I was told this is the only way to have a civilized society.
Yeah. Yeah, the roads are tough whenever it snows because no one bought any material for snowfall yet.
Yeah.
You know, no one bought any, there aren't any salt trucks, but they put out sand last time.
You get a lot of snow down here in Texas? I was told the globe was warming.
Once a year. Once a year,
Yeah,
dude.
no.
The globe's doing whatever will make us money, dude.
Yeah, you know that.
Matthew 6:24, you can only, you know, you can't worship God in money. So that's one thing that's just, that's a constant thing to be aware of, you know, for all of us, right? When we're creating art too, is that like be focused on what's good, you know, what art's about. Art's about voicing truth, you know. People are talking about their truth, but voicing hopefully a truth, you know. And so,
who are some comedians you've seen at the Mothership that you think people should be aware of?
But there's two people that I see there's two dudes that I try to see there's two guys I try to see every set, and then a third guy who's right around that too. But it's Tony Hinchcliffe and Ari Matty are the two guys that every set that they do, if I can, depending on what I'm doing, I hope to be in the room because it's always different and they're masters of the craft. Brian Holtzman's a really fun.
He's a really lunatic.
Fun. Yeah, he's a really fun one to pop in and see and just pick up on the energy in the room.
Yeah,
and be like, oh my God, like. Tonight they're getting it. Tonight they're not getting it.
Yeah.
I can feel the people over here. I can just look at these like middle-aged white women over here.
Yeah, man.
Because he has those funny videos of like people walking out.
Yeah,
stuff.
which look, I don't want to, and I like Holtzman a lot, but when you do 3 hours on set, people are gonna walk out.
Oh,
like
man.
when you do 3 hours, people are
That's
gonna leave.
That's a legend
dude.
of his, right?
Yeah, dude, people are gonna leave, man. So, but Holtzman's a G. He's been doing it for a long time. And that's one of the things that I love about Joe Rogan, man. If somebody was continuously walking people out of any other club, the guy would never get booked there.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that, you know, he's making a name for himself online by walking people.
Yeah.
It just goes to show, like, okay, this is a cool play. Although there's look, it's like any other club. There's some serious gatekeeping that goes on. But for the people that are able to get into the cool kids club, there's a real cool thing. And a guy like Holtzman's paid his dues for a long time.
Holtzman is he has like a Thursday night. He does like a Thursday night a lot, and it's cool to watch people get it. People are getting it. People are understanding like what he's doing, and it's like he's like the guy at the lunch table that's like kind of the wild guy making you laugh.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. Or he's like the guy on the corner just screaming at God. And you're like, this motherfucker's spitting. Like, you know, everybody else is walking by like, what's up with this lunatic? And I'm like, hey, hear this guy out. This guy's pretty good. But the whole dynamic, I hope, is changing. Those women that you're talking about felt very, very powerful for very long.
Yeah.
And they were able to turn entire rooms off with like a sigh.
Yeah.
And now people have gotten back to looking at them like, shut the fuck up. Like,
we're having fun.
This isn't about you. Why are you even here?
Yeah, we're having fun. Just leave if you're not having fun.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It would be like, the whole concept of it was always nuts to me to begin with. It would be like going to a party you weren't invited to and then being like, ew, who's playing this music?
Yeah.
I hate this music. This music sucks. Don't you think this music sucks? I was like, bitch, just leave. Nobody invited you. What are you here for? Like, go, dude. And it, Me Too kind of started. Donald Trump broke everybody's brains in the comedy world. LA, New York, every booker, just like, they broke their brains. And then a lot of really like bad people who frankly weren't very talented found out or figured out pretty quickly
a pathway
that they could get in just because they were a woman or a person of color or a gay person of color who, you know, what happened to be a female. Like, whatever angle that they had to play. And I get it, dude. This industry is fucking dog shit. So any way you can get in, get in. But I'm a former athlete just like you.
Yeah.
And I can't handle that shit.
It's tough.
I can't handle it. For me, it's a team sport. A rising tide lifts all ships. you know, hey, I got this contact, I'll give you the contact, sure thing. The nature of it, being such catty and being like this type of shit that would get your ass kicked in a locker room.
I came from, what's weird to me is that like during 2020, like I was writing a book about football, and I was a certified NFL agent. I was like one of the premier people, one of like the 3 best people at like explaining the salary cap.
Oh, wow.
And like how teams should spend their money and who they should be going after and all sorts of stuff. And I had like the respect of my peers and things like that in the field. And one of them being like the best quote I've ever gotten is from Kevin Clark, who's like probably the best writer about football, just talking about me and these 2 other guys as being the top dogs at this specific thing and being smarter than most of the GMs he talks to, right? And so I was trying to go down that path, but during 2020, I watched as everyone was like advocating for like businesses to be shut down. Then they were advocating for everybody to go outside and burn down businesses.
Sure.
And then I just ejected myself from that industry essentially, right?
Hey man,
And
I was
every industry's like that.
To that point, I was so shocked watching. I'm a huge Giant fan. Watching the Giants on Hard Knocks and seeing like the people that were wearing masks in the meeting in 2024.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, we're cooked.
This year?
Dude.
They were doing it this year?
There was like 2 people in these meetings, and I was like, yo, we're fucking cooked.
Yeah, these people.
We're cooked. There's no way. They don't understand masculinity. They don't understand men. They may be great with spreadsheets, and they're probably phenomenal with their predictive analytics, but they do not understand what it takes to build an organization.
Leadership.
Of men.
Yeah.
Right? And look, the numbers, I was a Moneyball guy, you know, I got to play because, you know, I got on base and I hit the ball far and all that stuff. And there's just certain things like like I hate the term like, you know, the nerds versus like the baseball guys, because I feel like baseball guys, they understand numbers. It's a number sport.
It's 100%
It's a number
sport.
You know, and I think the nerds can understand baseball, but there is something to like if you've never done it.
Yeah.
If you've never lined up, and you can say whatever you want to say, right? There's just like nobody stole bases in baseball for 10 years because they were like, it's just not worth the chance of an out. But they don't understand like how it opens the whole field up, how it keeps the energy up, how it puts pressure on the pitcher, how it puts pressure. They don't understand the ego of it. It's like, oh, that guy can't steal on me. I'm calling a fastball. And that fastball might be hit 400 feet.
Yeah.
And it was all because that catcher did not want the guy to steal, right? So like there's these things that the numbers don't say, right? The analytics are often, they tell a story of how it's been. Then who ends up being the best? The person that understands the analytics and goes the other way. Like, to your point, you look at Brock Purdy and these guys and you start saying to yourself, well, what NFL team should do is just draft a quarterback every 2 years. And as soon as that guy gets off his 5th-year contract, see you later.
That's exactly what I would say.
See you later.
Yeah, exactly what I would say.
Run it like a college team. I mean, how can you win if 40% of your salary cap is in one player?
Yeah. So the way that the NFL, like with quarterbacks, is that was the main thing that I discovered was that like you've got to have Patrick Mahomes if you're going to win with a guy making like 17% of the salary cap.
Sure.
'Cause I think he made that the last time they won. Maybe not last year, the year prior.
There's a couple guys I think making 25% of the salary cap this year.
It might be possible.
I think so.
Dude, you
better be good.
It depends on how you look at it, like salary cap number or cash figure, because like the cash figure sometimes can be like the guy's getting paid $80 million this year. And
But I mean, how is Howie Roseman manipulating the cap the way he manipulates?
Man, that was the team that I actually met with the Eagles in 2015, like really early on in like my research, because I was looking into like the book that I wrote was about how Super Bowl champions spent their money and like what I learned from studying that. And it's like boiled down to its most key component is like what you just said, running it like a college team is like continually finding quarterbacks with that skill set that you're looking
talent.
for.
That's
low cost talent.
Play at a professional level.
Find that like receivers are expensive, DNs are expensive. Like finding the right guy in the middle of the first draft to play DN for you for 5 years is a really valuable thing.
So let me ask you, how come guys aren't looking at that and saying, okay, the whole world has gone to 260-pound wide 9 defensive ends with two linebackers on the field.
5 DBs.
Yeah. Why not? And okay, so fullbacks are so inexpensive. Running backs, nobody cares anymore.
Well, the 49ers do that.
Run the power I with Jerome Bettis.
Right.
You go, then you don't need a quarterback. Go to be Trent Dilfer.
Right.
Trent Dilfer won a Super Bowl. Sean King took a team to the Super Bowl, right? I mean, like, put Mike Allstott and Warwick Dunn in the backfield and say, okay, go ahead, 230-pound linebacker, enjoy this for 30 rushes a game.
It's doing things differently, and that carries over into a variety of different industries and fields, right? It carries over into fighting.
But when there's only 30 teams and there's only 30 jobs, you gotta have Eddie Bravo balls. You gotta have flat Earth balls to be like, nah, this is how we're doing it.
Nah, man,
we're running the wing T, bro. What?
And I love seeing that. Like I was so excited about like just Chip Kelly doing things differently when he was in Philadelphia. I loved seeing that because now you see it in like a much more academic kind of way where it's like I see what Kyle's last name starts with a J. I can never say it, so I'm not.
Juszczyk?
Yeah, you got it. Oh, I think he's still with the 49ers.
Yeah.
Like
the H-back.
He's like a 4-year, $32 million contract kind of guy. So it's like for $8 million a year.
Taysom Hill.
Yeah, it's the way that you can do things differently, but a lot of people at one point in time were just paying whoever their quarterback was and being like, they're giving us a fighting chance. And a fighting chance is 8-8 and no one's excited anymore.
Yeah, it's a fighting chance to keep my job. Hey, this guy sells a lot of jerseys, he sells a lot of tickets, and I don't know, we'll blame it on the offensive line. Yeah,
and during those years, like during 2020, I like really got turned off of football because it's like you said, like the analytics people, like the way that the kinds of people that have gotten into football, the fact that like it's kind of like a sideline reporter kind of thing where I'm like, hey, there's a lot of dudes out there who've gotten a lot of brain trauma. Why are there 3 people on this panel talking about football who never played football?
Yeah.
Right?
Look, I mean, I don't want to get you in any trouble. Look, it's DEI. It's
right.
always been.
Right.
We need a woman. We need a female voice.
But it's what you were talking about, where
it's
comedy was. It's across the spectrum.
Comedy was the epicenter of that shit. And what I get mad about is like people are like, you're anti-diversity, and it's like, no, I'm anti-diversity for diversity's sake because we had a ton of diversity in comedy.
There's always
it was the best of the best.
Yeah.
And people want to, and I can't stand when people want to do this retcon of America, that we grew up in as the same America from the 1920s or 30s.
Right.
Like, I was born in 85.
I'm a 1990.
Like the America that they tried describing is an America I was not born in.
No.
And it's, I mean, if I want to be frank, and I've said this before, and I got shit for it, but I don't really care. It's the truth. As far as I'm concerned, man, most of the black dudes I grew up with in Jersey, they had it better than I did, or at least the same. But they had scholarship opportunities that I didn't have, and the coach at Yale was basically telling me when I was being recruited, he's like, "Are you sure you don't have any Native American in you? Like nothing at all?" I didn't know what it was at the time. I was like, "Nah, bro, I just got a tan. I was at the Jersey Shore. Like, what's going on here?" Like, I didn't know what he was saying at the time. Bro, listen, man. Get in where you fit in. That's fine. But I again, as an athlete and a guy that I'm always going to be a jock. I'm never not going to be a jock. You are what your stats say you are. There's nobody that ever watched Greer Barnes perform in New York City and been like, wow, he's great, but I sure wish a white guy was up there. Like, it's just never happened. Not once.
Comedy's naturally diverse because if you've got like 10 different comics, you want to hear 10 different perspectives.
Yeah, well, at least 9 of them before the woman comes up. But that's another one. Like, there's such funny women, but industry won't promote them because they're not on message. Somewhere around 2015, the message became more important than the talent. It didn't matter if you were funny, it mattered what you were funny about.
Yeah.
And the industry is just now kind of recovering, but it's also not, because like they'll let like white guys in, like Shane Gillis, they'll let him explode, and he's the man. Shane's the best writer going. But they got to be like doofy and kind of ashamed of being white still.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Like, I understand what you're saying about
like
that.
Everybody, I just got done with Nashville. I'm out here in Austin. And I can't tell if Austin's trying to be like Nashville and Nashville's trying to be like Austin. But they used to be 2 distinct cities, and they are very similar now. And it's just like, I feel like everybody has come down with like a a fever, like a low grade Shane Gillis fever. Like everybody is like some sort of like offshoot of Gillis, and it's this kind of like lovable, affable, like I've learned my lesson white guy, you know, and I guess it's the new aesthetic. I mean, good for him for fucking changing the culture, but there's also like there's something weird about it where there aren't like any other acts based on their demographics that have to go up on the stage and be like, hey, don't be alarmed, folks. I'm one of the good ones. I'm completely non-threatening. Like, you know, I don't think Cam Patterson's getting on stage and being like, oh boy, I sure hope you guys don't find me threatening. Like, so, and again, I might be a little bit too close to it. I might be a little too inside baseball on this, but it's just something where you sit there and you're like, oh boy, here's another white guy that talks about how doofy fucking white guys are. Here we go.
I think that his getting back on SNL was like a huge victory in that like they had to eat crow a little bit.
Kind of, but I think they sabotaged him. I think it was, but then, you know, the way that they went about that whole thing, I don't think they made him look as good as they could have made him. I actually feel like they went out of their way to not present him in a way that I thought could have showcased his
I didn't
talent.
see it.
I mean, even his monologue, they put this woman dead center frame, and I watched.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And she just had this scowl on her face the whole time. And part of comedy is audience reaction and interaction. So if the thing center frame behind you is this woman just having the worst time of her life, you know, there's a signal that's being sent to the people whose eyes are on that. They're like, well, what's she not like? Should I not laugh at this? And it's that split second of should I laugh as opposed to just reactionary laughing. Well, now he's on to the next joke, and it's over. Now it's a mid set, you know. And I'm 38 years old, and I just said the word mid. So we're gonna have to fucking, I don't know, burn this building down, kill everybody, so that we know it didn't happen. I don't know.
They one of the things that I see with Shane is like the crowd, the audience reactions were crazy. The audience reaction to Shane is really wild. Like he's beloved, and I pick up more on that, like that goofiness is like that's clearly like that's his. You know, he's like, we knew guys like that in the locker room.
Dude, maybe what I'm saying is sounding like I'm talking shit about Shane Gillis. I'm not. I think Shane Gillis is one of the
He's
best
like, he might be the guy right now, yeah.
It's either him or Schultz probably, right?
I mean Schultz's hour that
Tony,
at the club.
Tony's up there.
Schultz's hour might be the best hour I've seen at the club. Is like,
he's a monster.
Yeah, if you haven't seen Schultz's hour, it's about like him and his wife trying to get pregnant, and it's like you're up, you're down, you know. It's beautiful. It ends with a Sinatra song.
Really?
So, yeah, he walks off with a Sinatra song. So
Sam Morrill is another one that, you know, just incredible.
I mean, the stuff that Shane's saying is like the George Washington bit.
Dude, Shane's incredible.
Yeah.
What I don't like is that this...
I know what you're saying is that the
non-threatening, doofy aesthetic has become like...
The system...
Everybody, all of a sudden. You know, there's... It's great that Shane is so influential that everybody wants to be Shane Gillis, but
like the same way that people wanted to be Attell, right?
We can still use a Bill Burr. We can still, like, God forbid, a Carlin. Like, can we? You know, I'd settle for a Dennis fucking Leary at this point. Like, is there anybody that's just like I don't know? Maybe.
Well, what I feel like what's happening at the club and in Austin, right, is that like my central focus right now for anything that I'm like interested in is the MMA aspect of Austin, the migration of people here for tech, MMA, comedy, and watching people push the line in comedy here. Like it's like this is ground zero for that pushing the line, and I feel like Tony above all else is the guy pushing it furthest.
Tony for sure.
And Tony is like, and that everyone has their role, right? Like everyone's like, there's like the offensive tackle, there's the running back, there's the wide receiver, there's all these different roles. Tony's role is like he's the tip of the spear, and the corporate people don't like him. Like I just saw an awesome video of him talking to Will Compton from Barstool.
Yeah. Busting with the boys.
Yeah.
Great show.
And he was talking to Will about the fact that Netflix was trying to like box him in, trying to keep him at the table, trying to do a variety of different things, and trying to shorten his set, and trying to do all of these things to stop him from shining, and he was like, I went,
Fucking nerds, bro. The
Yeah.
nerds ruin football. The nerds
Yeah.
ruin baseball. Now the nerds are. We have nothing.
That was what was frustrating me about football, was like being involved in that universe, was that, and that's why I love where I'm at now.
Yeah.
Like you said, rising tide lifts all ships,
man.
Yeah, and it's I'm at a place, and you said about masculinity too, the whole security team at the mothership is, dudes, and and it's nice to see the ways that
Because all the chicks are in Secret Service now. There were no chicks left for you.
And it's like masculine dudes, and you can feel the positive impact that you're having on other people. People saying like they're working out for the first time.
That's good.
And they're people come into our class. We run classes for the MMA guys, and just basically for the
Are the comics
group.
coming through?
Yeah, the
That's
comics are
sick,
coming
yeah.
on our Wednesday, like on our like beginner kind of day
Sweet.
where we can walk them through stuff. And so you're seeing the positive impact of that. But that rising tide lifts all ships. It's a very interesting environment to be in, where you have a guy who has a lot of money and a lot of ability. And like you said earlier about there's a whole industry that's just the runoff of what has been created.
Austin, there's an entire industry that's created off of the runoff of people that are just here to be a part of the mothership and then need other time. I can't imagine, if there was no mothership, I can't imagine the Creek and the Cave would be here. I don't think Sunset Strip would be here.
And Shane's brought a whole crew of guys with him, all the tires guys and the guys that are a part of that too. And then there's like a few different groups. Like there's a group of guys who came down here within the last year with Shane. There's everything that comes out of Kill Tony.
Yeah.
And then there's like Joe and like the higher level guys that have come along with Joe. And Ron White's really the first guy that was here. And then everything comes off of that. And what I was saying too is like to have somebody who's supporting the community and doesn't look at a venture like a comedy club as like as his sole money making operation.
This is the biggest problem I have with let's call them conservatives or whatever. Anybody that likes to bitch about the anti-woke stuff or woke this, woke that. And I tell them all the time, it's just money, man.
Yeah.
Give me $1 million. I'll go make you the movie you want with the people you want in it. Just give it to me.
Right.
But no, you won't. You don't want to do that. You just want to bitch and moan and whine. Oh,
You just want to talk.
They want to.
You don't know how to
They
execute.
make a lot of money off of complaining. For people that complain about the left always being victims and snowflakes.
Yeah.
They like being victims, man. They like being like, oh, did you see the new Disney thing? Where's your studio?
They're talking heads and they're not executors.
Where's your
though.
studio, dude?
Yeah.
Where's your investment? These people are investing in their message. Should they invest in your message?
Right.
Like, who the fuck do you think you are? Who's entitled now?
They're investing a lot of money in their message too.
They're a ton of money.
And what's interesting is I think along the way I realized is that they don't even care if it makes money. The whole point is that there's a message. I had this thought yesterday, was that if 75% of advertising dollars on TV are from pharmaceutical ads, then the TV news doesn't exist without pharmaceutical companies. So it's basically part of the pharmaceutical company.
Sure. But the pharmaceutical company doesn't exist without government approval. So
right, it's just like a never-ending, like this thing that's just
Hydra. It's the blob, as Mike Benz calls it.
Yeah.
It's very, very. When you get into the Leviathan and you start saying, like, okay, everybody now knows. All right, BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard own everything.
I was just fucking with someone about that last night.
But they're publicly traded.
Yeah.
And who owns them?
Oh, you saw the cancel this clothing company video. Did you see that
buddy.
one? Yeah, where he keeps going back and he's like, these are private investors.
Yeah.
Who owns this?
That's who the video. Cancel this clothing video was fantastic.
Most people don't actually know who owns and controls BlackRock. We all know that it was founded by Larry Fink, and he's the face of the company, but he does not control it. Because if you dig deep enough, you'll find out that actually Merrill Lynch owns 45% of BlackRock. And they're considered an insider, so they don't show up on the top institutional holders list. But who controls Merrill Lynch? Well, Merrill Lynch is actually a division of Bank of America. So who owns Bank of America? Well, nowadays, Warren Buffett is the top shareholder of Bank of America because he owns Berkshire Hathaway, which is his billionaire investment firm. But Bank of America traces its roots back in two different directions. One of which we're not going to talk about, and the other one is back to this Italian dude named Amadeo Giannini, who acquired what was then called Banca di America d'Italia. Sorry for that accent. Over the years, it's changed its name to Bank America, and then in the biggest merger in history, merged with Charlotte-based Nation Bank in 1998. So I just thought it was interesting that half of the lineage of Bank of America was founded by this Italian dude that got really into Italian banking back in the early 1900s, you know, when like there was a certain Italian organization that was doing a lot of things with money. What's the story here?
Yeah, man, and then at the end it's Bank of America. And Bank of America started as a mob money laundering organization.
Really?
Yes. It was the Italian Bank of America. And it got its money, I believe, I don't want to get this one wrong. I directed Mafia States of America. I should know this. Who was it? Was it Lupertazzi? It was one of the original mob bosses that gave the seed money for the Bank of America, and then it was a money laundering front.
Yeah.
And that it was the Italian
And it was
Bank
called
of America.
Bank of America.
Italian Bank of America.
Wow.
Now it's BOA. And they're the main shareholders. And the main shareholders of BOA, Berkshire Hathaway.
Right.
But the main shareholders of Berkshire Hathaway are BlackRock.
It keeps
So
going back.
what are we doing here?
Yeah.
What's happening? And then you got these CIA cutouts, and dude, the shit's gotten outrageous. Unassailable, outrageous. That's why everybody was so excited when Bitcoin, the ETFs came out. They're like, Bitcoin's going through the roof. I was like, this is the end of Bitcoin, bro. It's over. They got it. They're gonna get all of it. And they're gonna do what they want with it, and they're gonna flush everybody out, and then they're gonna take all of it.
Yeah, those are the fluctuations you see.
They're gonna flush everybody out. The retail person that's like sitting on 3 coins, and it has like, you know, that's their life savings, and it's just like praying for it to double, and they're like, I don't flush you out, because once you lose 30 grand, you're gonna be like, check please.
Yeah.
And they're gonna be like, 30 grand. Come on.
We're just hanging out.
Come on.
We're waiting. We're just
see
gonna
you
go
in
back
10
up.
years when it's worth $1 million a coin. But
They can afford to wait. We can't afford to wait. It's an interesting long game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and just like you said about putting money in things that matter, you know, it does feel like being in Austin is that we're not in LA. I think about this a lot. We're not in LA or New York. We're not controlled by the people here aren't controlled by the same things.
Are you sure about that though?
Well, I mean, there's a podcast. This is centrally located. There's a lot of podcasts here, right? But it's not, you don't have the local pull of Hollywood. You don't have the local pull of New York money. Like, I do feel like Austin has a different culture that it's come up under. That's
interesting, because every time I come here, I do feel like it's LA light.
I understand the feeling.
Yeah.
Like, I do get the feeling, but as a thing expands and as celebrity comes and as things change, I understand that. But
even like you're saying, you said a really interesting thing before. You got Kill Tony, which is now the #1 podcast in the world, I think. Tucker Carlson and Kill Tony, and they're making so much money, and they're doing so well, and they're getting so many views. And Netflix reaction to that was, okay, let me change you. Yeah. Okay, let me make it better. I'll make it better.
Yeah.
It's like nobody watches Netflix anymore.
As the thing's really like launching off too.
Yeah.
Like the thing, they exceeded 1 million subscribers like 3 months ago. I think they're probably at, I haven't looked recently, but probably at 1.8 million.
Wow.
You know, that Gillis, that
Adam Ray,
that was nuts. Gillis.
That was very good.
Yeah, I mean the Gillis Adam Ray thing was just
Jordan Peterson, Tucker Carlson. I mean, it's been massive.
But that one episode had like 16, 17 million views.
Does it really?
And
that's a full episode.
Yeah, and wait until the New York City stuff comes down. 'Cause I was there, and it was epic. It was just headliner after headliner, New York comic after New York comic. Joey Diaz goes up, and the crowd's going, Joey, Joey.
Coco.
Yeah, I mean, it's like to see what Tony's built, and for him to be an industry outsider, like for them to clearly like not want him to win.
Yeah.
And that's, I really
But he won the roast though. He went on the roast of Tom Brady.
That's exactly what he said.
He's like, absolutely monster.
I stole it.
Yeah.
In 3 minutes, I stole the whole thing.
Yeah.
So it's to have an industry outsider like that, who they don't want to winning is it's a big deal.
Well, what's next for you? Tell us about the book, and then tell us what's next, Zach.
Mastering the Metal, written about Eddie Bravo, James Watson, written, a couple years ago now. I've been trying to figure out what the next book is for a while. I'm sitting here in Austin at the centrally located to watch everything that's going on here, you know, whether it's jiu-jitsu, which I've been deep in here since 2017.
Man, maybe you're going to be like the Kerouac of Austin, man.
I mean, you said it, not me.
You're going to be sitting here and just you're going to be the poet who's watching everything as the epicenter of culture shifts to a new place. You're Hemingway in, you know.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Keep blowing me up.
Yeah, I should. I'm just assuming you are because I've actually not read a word.
You'll like
this.
the first page.
So,
You'll see. You'll see.
Yeah.
You'll like the first page. It starts off hard. But for me, getting to be here during this time, and my writing style is very like Hunter S. Thompson, where I insert, it's new journalism. Like I'm a part of the narrative because I'm here. I'm always, whatever I'm writing about, as I wrote this, I was 6-7 years into being 10th Planet, right? So I've lived 10th Planet. I know what Eddie's about, whether it's jiu-jitsu, Austin, comedy, like what I'm living through right now with the Mothership and everything else that's around it, and watching the comedy scene happen, watching culture happen, being able to write something that it keeps me centrally focused in it, and has like a level of like professionalism around it as well, of like, you know, talking about the things that should be talked about publicly, you know, because I do also have a role as a security guy and as somebody that everyone trusts here, you know, and I want to talk about that cultural thing that's happening. Like when I talk to you about watching the reactions that people have to these comics and the response that, you know, I was at Joe's set the night that this was a couple years ago, the night that N-word video dropped when they tried to cancel him.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And Eddie told me that I should go see it. He's like, oh, Joe's going to be on fire tonight. So I go see it. And you watch how the city responds. And the city itself is a character in this. Like, Austin has an ethos to it that is a part of what's happening here as well. And a friend of mine, Michael Plaster, he's actually written about in this book. He was just at the Mothership last night taking a video of one of our comics, Tony Casillas, and just talking about the scene that's here. And there's so many similarities from an artistic standpoint between what the jiu-jitsu people are doing and what the comedy people are doing as well.
Creating a community, finding their own way, doing it the way that they think it should be done. Like-minded
people, not necessarily competing with each other, but also like competing with themselves in a manner that everyone's reaching higher. Everyone's continuing to climb.
What do you think it is about Joe Rogan that makes him what he is?
I've been listening to the podcast for like 12 years. You know, the first podcast that I listened to was Freeway Ricky Ross, and I had no idea that the CIA was selling coke in the hood, selling crack cocaine in the hood, right? And so I immediately got dropped off into a world that I didn't know existed the first time I listened to him, and it took a while for me to become like a regular listener. It was just like, man, that was a crazy podcast I listened to. He's had a lot of different iterations. He has this ability to he placed something down and he takes really good care of everybody there. You know, I have no complaints about as an employee. Like it's exactly how you would imagine it would be, or you imagine it could be. The way people behave and the way people treat you from the top on down, and there's just a leadership and a masculinity that you're talking about that's been vocalized through his podcast and through the people that have been on it and through the people that are at this club on a daily basis, with masculinity or whatever else too. It's just everyone's a part of this, nurturing this thing and pursuing and rooting for each other. It's not, and what I say about LA and New York, very cutthroat places. Austin's not a cutthroat place. So when you feel like LA light, like I know what you're talking about, but I don't feel like there's the level of pressure as well. LA and New York are very expensive, hard to succeed in places. You know, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And as as two young guys who could have seen what our reality could have looked like if we stayed in New York, that was a tough place to like make it happen.
Yeah,
it feels like a closed off club.
Yeah, it is. Sometimes New York feels like playing Monopoly when every piece on the board's already been bought.
Yeah.
And I think New York is a great place to go now after you've already made it. But making it in New York, I look at New York as like comedy college. I think everybody should do it. You'll play a bunch of rooms. You'll get a bunch of work. You're going to lose a ton of money. If you think you're going to make any money, you're out of your mind. work. Like everybody listening to this that's chasing their dreams, I say it all the time, don't chase your dreams, finance them. Too many people don't work when they are pursuing, you know, what they want to do in art or whatever, fighting. I see it with guys with fighting. And it's like, bro, there is no shame whatsoever. I don't know why you think there's shame in paying your bills. You're going to run out of money before you run out of opportunities.
Yeah.
You got to work. You got to invest. You got to put money away. If I had it to do all over again, I would have been a firefighter.
Right.
And I would have just been doing that 48-hour shift and having the rest of the time work Monday, Tuesday, and then, you know, work my nights and all this other stuff, invest. You know, and I think down here, that doesn't, at least from what I can tell with the people that I know, that doesn't seem to be the issue. It doesn't seem to be the whole, like you're talking about, New York thing. You know, hey, I'm going to sleep on my buddy's couch for 3 years in Bushwick, and I'm going to do 4 shows a night for $25 a show. And then, nah, bro, what you're going to do is you're going to feel like one person made it. You're going to come out of this thing bitter. You're going to come out of this thing with some sort of addiction. You know what I mean?
It's going to be brutal.
Yeah, it shouldn't have to be that way. Because what ends up happening with that in comedy really should come from love. We want to make each other laugh. We want to make each other have fun. And I think a lot of comedy in the last 10 years does not come from love.
No.
It comes from ego. It comes from hatred. It comes from desperation. It comes from, you know, my agent told me that they're not casting white males anymore, so try comedy. Like it comes from, it doesn't come from a place of genuine joy. Like, hey man, I hope you're having a good time. This is the first, and I sound like a fucking hippie when I say this, but I wasn't this way. My whole mentality changed really about, I want to say it was about 4 years ago. It was right when COVID was happening. And I was on tour with this great dude, Catfish Cooley. But Catfish wasn't a comic. So they'd take 2 comics, and then we'd do like a half hour each. Catfish would sell out the fucking everywhere. And he'd come on stage for like 15 minutes, be like, howdy fuckers, and do his YouTube thing. And it was the best gig ever. Like, you know, I've got 30 minutes. I don't have to sell a ticket. It's awesome. And these people came up to me at a show. And I remember thinking like, man, I'm doing some hacky shit. Like, what am I doing? Blah, blah, blah. And this guy was like tearing up because I had told a story about me and my ex. And he was like, me and my wife have really been struggling with everything going on in COVID. And, you know, this is our first time coming to a comedy show in 3 years. And I can't tell you like how much fun we had. And, you know, we were going to get divorced and our therapist said we got to do more stuff together. And, you know, we didn't have much money, but we love Catfish, but we really liked you, man. Your set was like, and he had like tears in his eyes, legit. And I was like, golly, man, that's fucking awesome, dude. I'm glad you liked it, dude. And it's that whole kind of moment where we all get caught up like, you know, and where's my agent? Where's my movie deal? Where's my Netflix deal? Where my? But it's really about them. And it's like, hey, are you having a good time tonight, bro? I want to make sure you're having a good time tonight. Where are you guys enjoying yourselves? Like, fuck it. Let's enjoy ourselves. You know, you're a Republican, you're a Democrat? Oh, that's cool. Well, fucking George Bush votes Democrat and Rob Kennedy votes fucking Republican now. So maybe call your dad and apologize for calling him a Nazi. Like, fucking, these people don't care about you. Relax. Yeah. Put the swords down and let's fucking laugh about this thing.
Yeah, I think that during the times where I've had my most difficult times recently, it's been like heavily me focused. Mm-hmm. It's been focused on what I need, you know, and not necessarily that, like what I can give. Mm-hmm. So that ability to give a good time to somebody is a really valuable thing. And so that's what it really is about with the comedy, is like, that's how to keep yourself happy, because it's a tough job. It's a tough gig. There's a lot of late nights. There's a lot of traveling. Yeah. And if you're not having fun, it's gonna be really tough.
You got to constantly, and I don't always get it right. You got to constantly remind yourself it's a service job.
Yeah. I
mean, I'm here of service, because you take it out on the audience, things that are problems that you've had before. This booker won't email me back, or I was supposed to do this and I got bumped. Like, and then you take it out on the audience. Audience had nothing to do with it. You gotta leave that shit at the door, and you gotta realign yourself, and you gotta, like, for me, it's easy because Gerard Heron is the guy that's doing all that business shit that I hate. Gerard Michaels is the act. So I can like literally like get into, like you said it in the beginning of this thing. It was like, wow, weird watching you get into character. Gerard Michaels is the act, man.
Yeah.
You know, but I got to be very careful that I don't let Gerard Heron on stage because that motherfucker is not funny. He's not there to have
bullshit.
He's not there to have a good time, bro. Yeah. And you know, I think that's a great lesson for anybody that's watching this, though, that if you can have a service mentality, if you can go into any situation saying, what can I provide to this situation, as opposed to what can I get out of this situation, I think you're gonna have a lot more success, but you're also gonna enjoy yourself and have a lot more fulfillment as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten some really nice notes about the book, right? Like, it's like, and those don't hang with me as much as, those haven't hung with me as much as they should have, because I've been worried about like other things, right? Like bills to pay or things that places I wish the book ended up, or whatever, right? And that's one of the difficult things about doing any kind of art is that, or any kind of project, is that it's not about the money, it's not about the accolades, it's about the result, and are you achieving the desired result? If you get a few messages about how, you know, the reading that really spoke to them, or hearing, like you just said, that's really what you gotta hang your hat on, because that's what you're here for.
Yeah, but also, bro, like you've got to be one of maybe like 3 bouncers in history to ever read a book or even be literate. So how fucking cool is that, dude?
I mean, I tell people I've gotten to, you know, I started training jiu-jitsu because of Eddie Bravo and Joe Rogan, you know, and I've written a book with Eddie. I've trained under him for all this time, and now I work for Joe's Club. You know,
pretty cool, dude.
It's very cool.
You're the new Plato, man. You know, Plato was
now we're up to Plato.
Well, you know, Plato was an Olympic wrestler. Plato is just his nickname. It meant
he
wide.
wasn't a pedophile, right? Weren't they all pedophiles? Weren't they all?
Like I said, you're the new Plato, bro. Like, all right, guys. Zach, tell them where they can find you, bro.
Zach Moore 10P on Instagram. You'll find my next book at some point, man. Just working on capturing what Austin is, and hopefully what it can be, and hopefully it can be a place that you know, people that are telling the truth can continue to thrive, and you know, doing things for the right reason.
Awesome, man. Well, if you like this episode, check out the rest, Gerard versus Evil, on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. Also, obviously, check out Slick and Thick and Canceled Weekly while you're there. And check out TelyRx.com. That's TelyRx.com. Use code S&T for 25% off of your first order. You want Ozempic. We all know you want Ozempic. They have Ozempic, man. Go ahead. Get that winter bod. You're going to eat your feelings this entire holiday season. Go ahead. Pump yourself full of that untested crap. And then you're going to look great. Who cares what happens next? That's what I say. And then maybe you got a couple bumps on your nether regions down there. You know, you want to look the doctor in the eye and look at his condescending face as he's like, bumps on your balls again? Gerard, and just skip all that. TelyRx.com. Telehealth is the wave of the future. You type in your symptoms, a doctor gives you a prescription. You don't have to take it to the pharmacist and look at their condescending eyes either. It gets mailed directly to your door within 24 hours. That's TelyRx.com. Use code SNT for 25% off of your first order. Peace.
That's hilarious.
Everyone